Why is it that the most intelligent minds often feel the most alone? It's not just a poetic idea, it's a pattern, a truth quietly echoed throughout history, woven into the journals of misunderstood philosophers, the loneliness of thinkers, and the quiet despair of those who see too much. In a world obsessed with belonging, being highly intelligent can feel like living behind glass, seeing everything clearly, yet unable to truly connect. This isn't about being better. It's about being different, deeply, often painfully different. And as the German philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer once hinted, the more intelligent you are, the harder it becomes to tolerate the noise of the world, and the more silence becomes both your refuge and your prison. Today, we're exploring why highly intelligent people often feel so alone. And we'll walk through Schopenhauer's most hidden insight about this truth, a truth that feels as relevant now as it did centuries ago. You might not notice it at first. Maybe as a child, you were just the quiet one, the one who asked strange questions, who preferred thinking to playing, who sat with thoughts long after everyone else had moved on. But as you grew older, you started to realize something. The world doesn't move at the pace of your mind. Highly intelligent people don't just think more, they think deeper. They see patterns others don't. They make connections others miss. They sense contradiction in the places most people find comfort. And this depth, while often praised in theory, is rarely welcomed in everyday life. You see, our culture celebrates surface-level interaction, small talk, predictable opinions, laughter without weight. But intelligence demands more. It craves substance, meaning, truth. And when those things are absent, the intelligent mind begins to feel a gnawing emptiness, a distance, a growing sense that maybe you're not made for this world. Schopenhauer understood this deeply. He wrote, "Talent hits a target no one else can hit. Genius hits a target no one else can see." But what he didn't say is what happens after that target is hit, when no one else even knows what you're aiming at. The applause never comes. Instead, there's silence, confusion, and eventually, isolation. This is the curse of depth. When your mind moves through life like a submarine in an ocean of speedboats, you stop trying to wave. You just keep sinking deeper, where the water is calm but cold, peaceful but lonely. There's a common misunderstanding about intelligence, that it's cold, analytical, emotionless. But in reality, many of the most intelligent people are deeply emotional. Not in a dramatic way, but in a quiet, intuitive way that feels everything too much and too often. This is where the trap begins. The intelligent mind doesn't just analyze the world, it absorbs it. It notices the hesitation in someone's voice, the subtle disappointment in their eyes, the meaning behind the words that were never spoken. This hyper-awareness often creates a deep sense of empathy, but it comes at a cost. Because while others brush things off, the intelligent person internalizes them. What others forget, they revisit. What others ignore, they feel. Schopenhauer once described compassion as the basis of morality. But for the deeply intelligent and empathic, compassion doesn't always feel noble. It feels overwhelming. It means noticing suffering even when you didn't ask to see it. It means caring in a world that often doesn't care back. And so, many highly intelligent people learn to retreat. Not because they want to be alone, but because being around others feels like too much. Too much noise, too much superficiality, too many unspoken rules they can't seem to follow without losing themselves. This paradox is painful. They long for connection, yet struggle to find people who meet them where they are. And even when they do try, their empathy tells them when the connection isn't mutual. They can sense when someone's just being polite, or when someone's only listening to respond, not to understand. In the end, Their empathy, this beautiful, natural extension of intelligence, becomes a source of loneliness. They feel deeply, but have no one to share it with. And so, they stop trying. They hide it. They shrink themselves, until eventually, their mind becomes their only real companion. Arthur Schopenhauer didn't believe the world was designed for happiness. In fact, he argued the opposite, that life, at its core, is suffering. And the more intelligent a person is, the more clearly they perceive this truth. In his view, most people are driven by what he called the will, a blind, irrational force behind all human desire. People chase pleasure, status, comfort, distractions, not because these things satisfy them, but because they are compelled by the will to keep chasing. It's a cycle of craving, never-ending and empty. But the intelligent person? They start to see through it. They notice the repetition. They question the purpose. They realize that chasing pleasure is not the same as finding meaning. And in doing so, they begin to detach from the world, from its games, and from the people still playing them. This, Schopenhauer believed, is the real root of their loneliness. It's not that they don't want connection. It's that connection becomes difficult when you see through the illusions that hold most relationships together. Conversations that dance around truth. Smiles that mask insecurity. Ambition that disguises emptiness. He once wrote, "The more unintelligent a man is, the less mysterious existence seems to him. That mystery, the weight of existence, the silence beneath all things, haunts the intelligent person. While others distract themselves, the thinker sits with it, alone." And yet, in that very solitude, Schopenhauer saw something sacred, a kind of liberation. Because to live without illusion is painful, but it is also honest. You might be wondering, was Schopenhauer just a pessimist? Someone too caught up in his own solitude? Maybe. But step outside philosophy for a moment and into modern psychology, and his ideas start to feel eerily familiar. Today, what Schopenhauer called seeing through illusion, psychologists might call existential depression, a deep, quiet ache that often affects gifted individuals. Not because something terrible has happened, but because they begin to realize that much of life operates on autopilot. They ask deeper questions about meaning, purpose, injustice, and often find no one around them asking the same. It's not rare to hear stories of highly intelligent people who, despite having friends, families, even successful careers, feel profoundly disconnected. Not because they're antisocial, but because the kind of connection they long for, honest, unfiltered, soul-level connection, is incredibly rare. And when their thoughts become too heavy for casual conversation, or when their truths make others uncomfortable, they learn to suppress, to keep their minds quietly racing behind a still face. They laugh when expected, nod when appropriate, but inside, they're somewhere else entirely, trapped between understanding too much and being understood too little. This disconnect breeds a specific kind of loneliness. Not the kind cured by company, but the kind born from a mismatch between what one needs and what the world offers. And you feel it, don't you? That sense that most conversations stay too close to the surface, that people talk at each other instead of with each other, that you're always editing yourself, diluting your thoughts to make them easier to digest. It's exhausting. Not because people are bad, but because connection without depth feels hollow. And for the intelligent mind, hollowness echoes loudly. So what happens next? Do they stop trying to connect altogether? Not always. Many try harder. They over-explain. They simplify. They reach out again and again, hoping someone will not only hear them, but truly get them. But time after time, the pattern repeats. The conversations skim the surface. The insights go unnoticed. And slowly, silently, something shifts inside. They begin to pull back. Because What's the point of opening your mind when most people only want to peek through the keyhole? It's here that intelligence meets a cruel paradox. The more capable you are of profound thought, the more alone you may become in that depth. Not because others reject you outright, but because they simply can't follow you there. And can you really blame them? Not everyone wants to talk about the illusion of free will over coffee. Not everyone wants to wrestle with mortality while scrolling through their phone. Most people want ease, not weight, distraction, not introspection. It's not a flaw, it's just a difference. But it's a difference that stings when your entire inner world feels like a foreign language no one else speaks. You might even start to ask yourself questions that sound simple, but cut deep. If I have to hide this much of myself to fit in, am I really connected at all? If being understood means being quiet, then what part of me are they loving? Me, or just the version they can handle? These are not the questions of arrogance. They are the quiet questions of those who've spent too much time pretending to be smaller than they are, just to feel close to someone else. And eventually, the intelligent person learns that loneliness isn't always about the absence of people. Sometimes, it's about the absence of resonance. Because there's a difference between hearing and understanding, between being liked and being known. And for someone whose mind naturally wanders beyond the obvious, who finds beauty in complexity and discomfort in the shallow, resonance becomes everything. But here's the irony. The more a person values depth, the more they tend to withdraw when they can't find it. Not out of bitterness, but out of fatigue. They grow tired of performing simplicity, of translating thoughts just to be met with blank stares or awkward silence. They grow tired of laughing at things that don't move them, of nodding in conversations that feel like static. And so, they begin to choose solitude, not because they stopped wanting connection, but because connection without depth began to hurt. Still, this isn't always visible from the outside. You might see them at work, in a relationship, around others, smiling, functioning, present. But underneath it all is a quiet truth. I'm not really here, not fully, not in the way that matters. And that's what makes this loneliness so unique. It hides in plain sight. The world might see them as put together, even admirable. But deep inside, they're wandering. Not lost, just unaccompanied. Think about that for a moment. What does it feel like to walk through life unaccompanied? To carry thoughts so intricate they fold in on themselves? To sense things others brush past without even noticing? To long for a conversation where you don't have to hold back? Where your full self is not only allowed, but welcomed? That longing, that's where the loneliness lives. But what if it's not a flaw? What if this loneliness is actually a signal, a signpost pointing towards something real, something rare? Maybe it's not telling you that something is wrong with you. Maybe it's reminding you that you're not supposed to belong everywhere. You're not supposed to resonate with everyone. Because what you carry, this depth, this insight, this need for truth, is not common. And it was never meant to be. Schopenhauer believed that the wisest among us often retreat, not because they hate the world, but because they see it too clearly. And sometimes, seeing clearly means realizing how much is artificial, how much is noise, and how little of it truly nourishes the soul. But here's the quiet power in all of this. Solitude doesn't mean failure. It doesn't mean weakness. It can mean freedom. It can mean clarity. It can mean that you're finally choosing to stop twisting yourself into shapes that don't fit. Because maybe, just maybe, your loneliness isn't emptiness. Maybe it's space. Space waiting to be filled by the right voices. The ones who understand without translation. The ones who don't just hear, but feel what you're saying. And if you've ever felt that kind of emptiness, If you've ever sat in a room full of people and felt like a ghost, know this: you're not broken. You're not lost. You're simply one of the few who still longs for something real in a world that's forgotten how to be real. Now, I want to hear from you. Have you ever felt this kind of loneliness? The kind that doesn't go away just because you're surrounded? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Let's make this a space where depth isn't something you have to hide. And if this message resonated with you, please like the video, subscribe for more, and share it with someone who might need to hear it. Because sometimes, knowing you're not alone in your loneliness